Welcome to my food journey, and here we are back in the kitchen, and today I'm going to make some Znoud. Znoud is the Lebanese version of the cannolis. Creamy filling in crispy filo, drizzled with sugar syrup or perhaps maybe drenched with sugar syrup. You can have it either way. So that's what we're going to be making today. To start, what we do is we make the syrup, because the rule here, the dessert rule for us, is that it's cooled syrup over a hot dessert or the reverse. So it's never hot and hot because we want that pastry to be nice and crispy. So we're going to make the sugar syrup so that cools down. If you have time to make your sugar syrup the day before, go do that, because sugar syrup will keep for up to 3 weeks. We're going to add the sugar, the water, all in the pot. I just squeeze a little bit of lemon right at the beginning. Some people do this at the end. And then I'm going to add some rosewater, bring that to a boil. And once that starts boiling, we're going to reduce that. Okay, the tip here is not to stir your sugar syrup. All you got to do is swirl. Just swirl it gently, because we do not want the sugar to crystallize. And that is going to only take about 7 to 10 minutes, because we do want a thicker sugar syrup here for those desserts. So while we're making the syrup, we begin making the filling. So traditionally, the filling for these desserts is clotted cream, which is called Ashta. And the process for that is just skimming off the thin layer of simmered milk. So, and you just keep going over and over again. And that is the clotted cream. That's what you use for filling. But for something quicker, and I suppose when our parents and their generations came out to Australia, they were always looking for different ways of achieving this ashta, this clotted cream that they back then didn't really know how to make as such. So ricotta cheese was one of them. And so what I'm going to do, my twist to the ricotta cheese here, is to add some cream, thickened cream, and some rosewater, a bit of icing sugar, and I'm going to beat that up until nice and smooth. So we've got about 200 grams of the ricotta cheese, and I've got about a half a cup of thickened cream. I'm going to add some icing sugar to that, and I'm going to add rosewater. Rosewater made in Lebanon, I love to use. And so here I'm going to add just a couple of teaspoons of that, and I'm going to just beat that up just on low until it's nice and smooth. I don't want it too sweet, right? So it's not too sweet, but I can actually taste, I can smell the fragrance of that rosewater, but it's still not overwhelming. It's not bitter. Okay, so approximately about 10 minutes for your sugar syrup to thicken. Now remember, the sugar syrup will not look thick while it's really hot. So just turn the stove off, and you need to let that cool down completely. Once it cools, it will thicken a lot more than what it is now. Now the pastry. Okay, this here is completely up to you what size you want your Znoud, your rolls. When you buy your pastry, I've used a thick style pastry, because what we want to do here is we want the filling, while we're frying those, not to ooze out from the sides. So if your pastry is quite thin, each sheet, perhaps just add some more layers. Now, you want each one of those rolls to look the same, use a ruler. With mine, I do 7 centimeters, 7 centimeters, 7 centimeters, and the last one is like 6.5, but it's fine. So I'll cut it into 4s, 7, 14, 21, and then 28. And what you do is we're going to cut all the way down. Grab one strip at a time, fold it in half, just like that, and just cut in the middle. Filo pastry dries really quickly, so you have to be very careful it doesn't dry out. So this is what I do. I have a small tea towel in wherever I'm using, and I just slightly spray it with a bit of water, not a lot of water, because we don't want the filo to get wet. Okay, place the filo pastry and just cover while you're preparing the other sheets. As you can see now, the rosewater, as it starts to cool, it thickens. So that's going to be a nice and thick for us to drop our desserts into. Now, time to roll. If you are using the thick style filo pastry, I use 2 sheets, one on top of the other. The third sheet I put across just like that, just like a cross. Here, I'm going to add about a tablespoon, perhaps not quite a tablespoon, because the last thing we would want is when we are frying those rolls for the cream to ooze out. So I'm going to fold a little bit, okay, because I'm creating more layers while I'm folding. Then I'm going to fold over the cream and just slightly tap that down. Okay, begin from the side closer to you and roll that out gently. You need really gentle hands here. Just roll it out, not firmly, but not too loosely, but you just keep it looser. Once you get to the end, what I've got here is some flour and some water. Okay, I'm going to use that as a glue. So I'm just going to dip my finger into that, and I am going to brush that with my hand, my finger, on the end of the filo, and I'm going to roll, and that's going to close up. Because you've got 2 layers of filo, sometimes when you glue one together, you will still have another one that's opened. And so make sure if the other one isn't glued down, you also brush that with a little bit of your flour and water, and you also close that up, because that will open up when you are frying. And that's it, ready to fry. We're about to fry the Znoud. The most important part here is you cannot put them in a cold oil. So your oil needs to be hot, not overly hot where it will burn them. So to test that, just grab some filo pastry, and we're going to drop them into the oil. If it sizzles like that, that oil is ready, okay? So then now we are going to drop the Znoud in here. So just a few at a time. You don't want too many of them to go golden together, because you need to scoop them out, and you'll notice now is that they will brown up so quickly because this is just filo pastry. As your Znoud start to brown and go golden in color, you can start dropping, okay, some more Znoud in, okay, because now by the time we take these out, they'll be ready to come out. If you overcook these, you will start hearing the filling ooze out. So if it goes into the oil, all you got to do, my advice is just grab it and take it out, okay? And you can continue to fry the rest of them. And sometimes this will happen. It happens to the best of us. Here we go. I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to drop it straight into that sugar syrup that we made earlier. Okay, so here we are. We have them in the sugar syrup, and just with a spoon, drizzle those. Well, you've got to drench these with the sugar syrup, and this sugar syrup, remember, is cooled. It's completely cooled down. Remove each one of them and put it into a sieve. Okay, so we're going to allow the sugar syrup also to run through. And the tip here, all the water syrup that you get into this bowl, you can reuse that. So if you're doing a big quantity of these, okay, you can reuse this syrup. So here, I've just done something a little bit differently. So I'm going to put just a dash of that filling that we've made. Oh, that's a bit too much. Just a little bit here in the middle, the center of each one. And what I've prepared here is some sugar shards with some edible flowers, and I'm going to place that in the middle of each one, just for something a little bit different. Ground pistachio, we're going to sprinkle those over the top. The beautiful green, vibrant color. Maybe just a few of my dried rose petals on top, and you're ready to eat those. Irresistibly delicious. So, of course, you should always try your food, as I will. Now, as you saw, they are not as complicated as they look. Super easy. It's fragrant, it's delicious. The filling is so creamy and rich. The filo pastry is so crunchy. I'm in heaven.